I'm Jane King at the NASDAQ market site. A rout in China sends global stocks on a New Year's sell-off.
Happy New Year from San Francisco. In just 2 short weeks, a lot has changed in the biotech space. KaloBios Pharma filed for bankruptcy after the arrest of its Pharma Bro CEO. And a breakthrough with gene editing offers hope for a muscle disease.
Welcome to Small Cap Nation. I'm Jane King at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. We're seeing a global sell-off to start off the new year right out of the gate. Chinese stocks fell 7% on disappointing manufacturing numbers, and trading was actually halted there. Also, oil prices rising as tensions increase between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The Saudi embassy in Tehran was stormed after the Saudis executed people considered to be terrorists, including a Shiite cleric that Iran warned should not be killed. Now, the markets last year kind of were ho-hum. The Dow was down 2% for the year, the S&P down a fraction. The NASDAQ, though, did close out the year with a nearly 6% gain. Well, small cap exchange-traded funds that track the value style are finally beginning to rally. They started at the end of the year last year. So in the last 2 weeks of 2015, the iShares S&P Small Cap 600 Value Index gained 2.5%. The iShares Russell 2000 Value Index was up more than 2%. Meanwhile, the iShares Core S&P Small Cap ETF up 2%, and the Russell 2000 iShares ETF was up about 2% as well. Now, in contrast, the iShares Core S&P Mid Cap ETF added 1.6%, while the Spider S&P 500 returned 1%. Small cap stocks largely underperformed last year, with IWM down 2.3%, but as we head into a new year, it may finally be time for the small caps to push ahead. Observers argue that due to their domestic focus, small caps could be better insulated from these macroeconomic forces like the Middle East and China, and that could also affect their larger peers. Well, Pandora stock could fall another 20%. According to Barron's, the influential financial magazine makes the case that internet radio pioneer Pandora could get left behind in the music streaming business as bigger and better funded competitors join the game. Those competitors would be Apple Music as well as Spotify. Well, lots of small cap companies making news as we head back to work in 2016. So here's a look at today's small cap wrap. Anna Digic says an unidentified party offered 68 cents a share for the company. Fifth Street Finance says one of its investors reported a 6.5% stake in the business. ITT Education says it's in its best interest to retain Mo Danny as the CEO of the company. Sagent okayed the sale of its China division, and TG Therapeutics will sell up to $178 million worth of stock. Acadia Healthcare said it was buying a private behavioral healthcare service provider in the United Kingdom for about $1.89 billion. That includes debt. Priory Group is a behavioral health science provider with about 300 facilities and 7,200 beds. The transaction is expected to add 38.42 cents per share to Acadia's annual earnings, according to the company. And the founders of Lyft, the ride-hailing service, have long imagined that the future of transportation would involve fewer cars on the road. Well, now General Motors helping the startup reach that goal. Lyft announced that GM invested $500 million in the company, or half of its latest $1 billion venture financing round. The funding, which recently closed, values Lyft, which is based in San Francisco, at $4.5 billion. Well, it's a brand new year, but things are looking dim for KaloBios. The company has filed for bankruptcy in the wake of CEO Martin Shkreli's arrest. The NASDAQ stock market notified the company that the bankruptcy is a separate and additional basis for delisting. So where does KaloBios go from here?
Hi, Jane. Since our last report on KaloBios, things have changed drastically. The South San Francisco-based company filed for Chapter 11 restructuring in Delaware. It listed $8.4 million in assets and $2 million in debt. The notorious Pharma Bro entrepreneur Martin Shkreli and a group of investors acquired a controlling stake in KaloBios last November. It was on the verge of liquidating the company. Shkreli took the CEO position and shares rallied. He has since been ousted from KaloBios as well as privately held Turing Pharmaceuticals. The exodus at KalaBios continues with 2 board members fleeing. Now Shkreli faces up to 2 decades in prison on fraud charges. The securities fraud charges are related to his dealings at a prior company, Retrofin. As for the delisting, KalaBios has appealed the move. The NASDAQ formally delisted the stock, and shares have not traded since Shkreli's arrest on December 17th. Now with the appeal from KalaBios, a hearing has been scheduled for February 25th.
What will happen to the drugs that are in the pipeline at KaloBios?
Well, according to court filings, a chief restructuring officer has been appointed to KalaBios. Details show that a restructuring would allow the company to develop lenzilumab. Now, this is the experimental leukemia drug. With 8 employees left, KalaBios is a shell of an organization compared to where it was last month, and perhaps more battered than it was prior to Shkreli's arrival. And after going through the ringer a second time, the company plans to evaluate its strategic alternative.
Well, sticking to the healthcare space, there have been several cases of Zika virus spreading across South America. The mosquito-borne virus is blamed for birth defects. Now, last month, the CDC issued travel notices for 9 countries in South and Central America. And last year, KaloBios bought rights to treat that rare tropical disease under Shkreli's leadership. So is this another potential gold mine for KaloBios?
KalaBios bought rights to a decades-old treatment for Chagas disease. It is aiming to gain approval to distribute the drug in the U.S. with a priority review voucher from the FDA, and it would have moved the drug through regulatory review at a faster pace. Some companies also sell them for a tidy sum. There is no vaccine or medicine to prevent infection of the Zika virus. For now, people can only protect themselves from mosquito bites. As for Chagas disease, medications to treat the parasite are effective if taken soon after infection. Benznidazole as well as nifurtimox kill the parasite, but there is no vaccine for Chagas.
Straight ahead, we head across the pond for a look at what's happening in the European markets when Small Cap Nation comes right back.
Guys, I got the jerseys. El Nino. Aquí. Spray Dan.
Oh, yeah.
Don Ovan.
Think that's me?
You guy. It's $40. Can you cover that?
I'll send it to you right now. Done.
Okay, got it. So hat-trick Rick, he's the best player on our team. You get the ball, you give it to him.
Great. Rick.
On your phone, online, on the go, Wells Fargo makes it easy to get banking done.
All right, Don, you're on. Nope, just kidding.
Doug, you've been staring at that for a while, huh? Listen, TD Ameritrade has former floor traders to help walk you through that complex trade, so you'll be confident enough to do what you want. I'll pull up their number. Blammo. Let's get those guys on the horn. Ooh. Looks like it is time to upgrade your phone, Douglas.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
Let's go, Serena. Fight, fight. Come on, fight. Come on, Serena.
Back to the top. Here we go. 2, 4, 5, 6. Whoa, stop. Let's go back. 1, 2. Whoa, we're gonna stop there. I bet we can do it even better.
It took tennis legend Serena Williams, fencing champion Tim Morehouse, and the world-famous Rockettes years to master their craft. But it took them only moments to master paying bills at Chase.com, depositing checks at Chase ATMs, and transferring funds on the mobile app. Technology designed for you, so you can easily master the way you bank.
A happy new year to you. How have the European markets opened for this new year?
Well, it's not been so good this morning. Everything appears to be following the Far East on a downward path. All the major markets have moved into the red, as well as the Middle East pressures, concerns with the Saudi and Iran conflict potential. There seems to be continuing pressure in London on commodities and oil-related stocks. So downward and not very happy.
Did anything of importance to the markets happen over the holiday period?
Well, the Spanish elections turned out as somewhat as expected. Anti-EU and Euro parties succeeding and holding the balance of power, so some uncertainty in Spain that has pulled the market down. Also, the Finnish Parliament is expected to vote through a referendum on leaving the euro, more to follow on that. And that could be quite significant. It's the first time anybody has wanted voluntarily to leave, unlike Greece. And we have more economic data and news coming up later this week with a number of key data points, but no surprises really expected. Today we had the final market for Germany. PMI came in December up, better than preliminary estimates, and the biggest for 4 months. Similarly in France, it came up slightly below expectations, but still up and the best for the previous 2 months. And the overall Eurozone came in at slightly up as well, just 0.1. That might have been partly affected by the fact that also the UK came in off, and the UK PMI for December was down from November and the lowest in 3 months due to a slowdown in output and new order growth. Not a good start to the year, and we'll have to see how things shape up in January.
Well, Graham, what are we looking at today?
Well, I thought, Jane, that we should have a bit of a retrospective on the economics, politics and markets in 2015 before tomorrow moving on to 2016.
Now, that sounds like a plan. Well, shall we start?
Well, let's look at the main markets. We had a few big winners and a couple of surprising advances, in fact. The best year-on-year performance, in fact, came from the smaller markets, particularly Dublin. Ireland, having had a major banking and housing meltdown in recent years, appears now to be on the rise and coming back quite strongly in the economy. One always needs to be a little cautious in the smaller markets, as their indexes are influenced by a few major companies. But Ireland and some of the Scandis seem to have done quite well in 2015 overall. And then we have the smaller winners. So several major markets have managed to stay positive. Frankfurt particularly appears to have shrugged off the problems at Deutsche Bank and Volkswagen, I think partly due to the continuing performance of German mid-cap and small-cap industrials. It's also worth noting that the Scandinavians held up well, except for Oslo, which of course was hit by the oil price. But not every market has had such a good year, and when we look at some of them, we can see why. Particularly London, of course, which was hit by both falling oil and commodity prices. Taken together, oil, mining and banking account for about 30% of the FTSE 100 index, and many of those took quite a hammering, particularly the commodity related businesses in the latter part of the year. Also, Madrid certainly probably has been hit by the uncertainty from the elections, and even more so since then by the results. Athens, of course, is not really much of a surprise, as the economy is still a long way off recovered.
Well, so much for the main markets. How did the small cap markets perform?
Well, interestingly, the small caps did quite well, particularly the Frankfurt SDAX and the London AIM. It's difficult to get data for the smaller markets, but the main markets results year on year look quite encouraging. The London AIM particularly returned a much better result than the main market, but, there's always a but, this needs to be qualified by the fact that much of it came from two major IPOs, WorldPay and Auto Trader. Out of the 10 biggest IPOs in London this year, only those two are now trading significantly above the offering price. Many smaller IPOs have in fact not performed well at all. The stellar performance in fact has been Frankfurt SDAX, which outperformed everyone massively, much due to the strength of the famous Mittelstand, the German SME market, SME companies. Also, the Euronext's Alternex performed better than the main market, and this sort of overall performance in Europe is reflected also in the MSCI small cap index.
And how did the IPO scene develop in 2015?
Well, on the IPO front, according to the London Stock Exchange, there were, as of mid-December, some 85 IPOs in the UK compared to 137 the year before, so quite a significant drop. But interestingly, the level of funding raised was about the same as the previous year, only slightly off, about 10% off. And this brings the point that there seem to have been more larger IPOs this year, though fewer of them, larger in terms of money. The London market has brought a number of established startups to the market. We mentioned WorldPlay and Auto Trader being an example. More recently we looked at the estate agents, Purple, and several others. Whilst in Europe, in fact, the tendency on the Euronext and particularly on Frankfurt has been for old established companies to become public by launching IPOs, and some of these have been a good size. And overall in Europe we've seen funding up about 2% on the year at about 69-70 billion, which I believe in terms of percentage rise is better than in the States. Of course, there were also a number of notable withdrawals from the market, IPOs which didn't happen, Deezer being a good example. Some due to pricing and market volatility, and some of course due to questions about their business model, which discouraged investors.
What else do we look into in 2015?
Well, I think the overall economic situation obviously, and the ECB and the Bank of England were the other main stories. The slowdown in the Chinese economy, the collapse in commodity prices, and also the collapse in oil prices, and the general uncertainty that created and volatility in the markets, added to which of course we had the Fed will they won't they up until December, certainly discouraged the IPO markets to some extent, as we previously mentioned. The timing of the Fed rise and the ECB's reaction and the Bank of England to the continuing lack of inflation in the European economies have caused concern. And in addition, of course, in December, the markets misread or were misled, depending upon your opinion, as to the ECB's lack of direct further action, which caused some problem. The German economy is continuing to prosper, albeit more slowly, but the lower euro is certainly helping it with the export, as it's an export-led economy. The British economy is showing some signs of recovery, but the rest of Europe is continuing to struggle, particularly in the south, where continuing high unemployment is a plague in both, for example, Greece and Spain, 20, 25, 30%. The euro ended 10% down on the dollar on the year, so not quite down to 101, it's sort of come back 109, but it's been useful obviously for Germany particularly. On the political front, we have the continuing and unresolved migrant refugee crisis, and there's going to be more fallout undoubtedly about this. And we have anti-EU and austerity and Euro parties beginning to show strongly in a number of countries, most recently of course in those Spanish elections in December. And whilst terrorism threat continues to be present, it really doesn't seem to affect the financial markets too much, but the costs of responding to it are going to have to work through into the general economic challenges, so quite a lot going on there. Well, that wraps it up, I think, for looking back at 2015. We'll talk about 2016 tomorrow. This is Graham Brown, wishing you a happy and, more importantly, prosperous 2016. And that's it for Small Cap Nation today.
We'll take you to San Francisco next when Small Cap Nation comes right back.
Everyone works hard for a reason. Working together, we can help you prepare financially for when 2 becomes 3. Wells Fargo. Together we'll go far.
You want to be the best investor you can be. You want to cut through the noise of an overwhelming amount of analysis. You want the insights that will help you decide which ideas to execute and which to leave behind. You want your trades executed in 1 second or less, guaranteed and routed with institutional quality technology. Look no further. Open an account and find more of the expertise you need to be a better investor.
When I got the phone call that we had received the grant, I held my breath.
To have a program like this is a big reward.
Being a Chase Mission Main Street grant recipient is a game changer.
One of the biggest surprises in starting a small business is the number of hours we should work for the first 20 years.
One of the great things about this grant is that it is going to let us invest in some additional inventories.
It's going to allow this business to go to the next level.
Being a recipient of this grant, we can't be thankful enough.
It's a dream come true, and I'm still in awe.
2015 was a great year for FDA drug approvals in the oncology space. The agency has sped up approvals.
Last year, the FDA approved a whopping 45 new drugs, and that's the best rate of approval since 1996. Now, the gene editing tool called CRISPR has raised some ethical concerns, but it has treated mice with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Now, researchers at Duke University were able to treat a genetic disease with gene editing. Now, this may have potential as a therapy for human beings. CRISPR is a process where scientists cut out and replace components of DNA. In the latest study, researchers delivered the gene editing system into affected tissues using a non-pathogenic virus.
What are some of the small cap names that are working on DMD treatments?
You may recall the spotlight on BioMarin last year. The company's drug drisapersen slows the effects of DMD. Duchenne muscular dystrophy is caused by a genetic mutation and impairs the production of dystrophin. This is a protein chain that connects muscle fiber to surrounding tissue. And without the protein, muscles begin to deteriorate. Now, the FDA has said it would announce its decision on the treatment by the end of 2015. Now, federal regulators will announce its decision early this month. Meanwhile, Sarepta Therapeutics' rival DMD treatment is scheduled to go before the same FDA panel on January 22nd. It seeks approval for a therapy that has faced challenges through clinical development.
FDA hurdles are always treacherous. A promising new cancer treatment that has been billed as simple as a flu shot has cleared the first phase of FDA approval for immunotherapy treatment. Now, how soon can we expect to see those treatments at the doctor's office?
Treatments are still in clinical trials, but so far the results have been positive, while the approval process can take anywhere from 4 to 5 years. There have been reports of an FDA approval testing on an individually customized cancer treatment taking place at Baylor Hospital in Texas. Now, the new course of action replaces chemotherapy with a simple monthly injection. Cells are taken from the tumor growing inside a patient. After harvesting cells from the tumor, an individualized vaccine is created. Patients receive a monthly injection of the specialized vaccine engineered to allow the body's immune system to keep the cancer in check. Now, Baylor Hospital is the only facility that has been cleared to test this form of cancer treatment. The FDA's latest action will help expedite the program and increase clinical testing, while full government approval of the therapy is still years away.
Listen up, investors. What to buy, sell, or hold our daily segment on what the experts are recommending when Small Cap Nation returns.
Guys, I got the jerseys. El Nino. Aquí. Spray Dan.
Oh, yeah.
Don Ovan.
Think that's me?
You guy. It's $40. Can you cover that?
I'll send it to you right now. Done.
Okay, got it. So hat-trick Rick, he's the best player on our team. You get the ball, you give it to him.
Great. Rick.
On your phone, online, on the go, Wells Fargo makes it easy to get banking done.
All right, Don, you're on. Nope, just kidding.
Doug, you've been staring at that for a while, huh? Listen, TD Ameritrade has former floor traders to help walk you through that complex trade, so you'll be confident enough to do what you want. I'll pull up their number. Blammo. Let's get those guys on the horn. Ooh. Looks like it is time to upgrade your phone, Douglas.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
Let's go, Serena. Fight, fight. Come on, fight. Can't stop me now. Come on, Serena.
Back to the top. Here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoa, stop. Let's go back. 1, 2. Whoa, we're gonna stop there. I bet we can do it even better.
It took tennis legend Serena Williams, fencing champion Tim Morehouse, and the world-famous Rockettes years to master their craft. But it took them only moments to master paying bills at Chase.com, depositing checks at Chase ATMs, and transferring funds on the mobile app. Technology designed for you, so you can easily master the way you bank.
Well, lots of activity in today's buy, sell, hold action. Allscripts Healthcare is cut to market perform at Raymond James. American States Water was rated new underweight at Barclays. Choice Hotels rated new perform at Telsey. Laclede was cut to sector perform at RBC Capital. MKS Instruments rated new overweight at Pacific Crest. Quality Systems raised to outperform at Raymond James. Stone Ridge cut to neutral at B. Riley. U.S. Cellular cut to neutral at J.P. Morgan. Watts Water cut to market perform at Oppenheimer. Wendy's was raised to a buy versus a neutral at Nomura. And DreamWorks Animation has been downgraded from a buy to a neutral at B. Riley. Thanks for joining us on Small Cap Nation, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, check back for the latest news and research on smallcapnation.com, Facebook, and Twitter.